Hi everyone, welcome to Sports Insider. I'm Dan Labbe, joined by Chris Fedor. Packed show as always today. Mary Kay Cabot will talk Browns with us. Paul Hoynes will talk Indians. I'm afraid it's over.
Now you're saying it?
I'm afraid it might finally be over.
You got to the point finally.
And then, of course, we will preview Cavaliers training camp with Chris Haynes. Bud Shaw will join us at the end of the show, too. But first, let's get to it. Mary Kay Cabot joins us via phone to talk Browns. Mary Kay, how are you?
I'm fine, guys. How you doing?
Doing well. Of course, the big news of yesterday was Josh McCown was named the starter for the Cleveland Browns on Sunday against the Raiders. Were you surprised at all that Josh McCown was named the starter and that it took that long, or was it just a matter of him getting out of the concussion protocol?
Yeah, no, I wasn't surprised because, I think they were leaning towards they were going to do that the week before had he passed the concussion protocol. So I pretty much expected this. I didn't think that Johnny did enough in that game to overtake Josh McCown. I mean, this was their plan all training camp, all preseason. He had that good first drive against the Jets defense that's shaping up to look pretty decent this year. And I think all signs were pointing towards Josh, and I agree with the decision.
Mary Kay, when you think about what Mike Pettine had to say yesterday in explaining the decision, he went into it thoroughly. I thought what he said was logical and reasonable. But if you had to sum up the reason why he decided to go back to Josh McCown, how would you sum it up?
He's the better quarterback. That in a phrase, right now, he is the better quarterback. Johnny's coming along. He's making progress. We all saw that in this past game. But he's not quite there yet. And once defenses start to kind of figure out how to best game plan for him and neutralize some of the things that he does well and maybe take away Travis Benjamin a little bit, down for down, I think that Josh McCown is going to be able to distribute the ball better to more receivers and just function better, regardless of what is thrown at him.
Mary Kay, Mike Pettine kind of downplayed it yesterday, but there had to be some consideration about the impact of this decision on the locker room. Do you think that played a role in it?
I don't think it played a large role because I don't think that that there is as much, clamor in the locker room for maybe Johnny as there was last year when Brian Hoyer was struggling over a period of time. I think there was an undercurrent of, hey, why aren't we trying Johnny Manziel when we're seeing him do some really cool things in practice? And make no mistake, he was doing some cool things in practice, regardless of, some reports and stories that we've heard that he just had no idea what he was doing. He was still going out and running around and improvising and making those kind of Johnny football plays in practice. He was going off script, actually, at times to do that. That doesn't mean that he was ready to run their offense in the way they needed him to, but he wasn't, just wandering around out there completely lost. But I don't think there's the same, kind of support for Johnny where people are like, hey, we got to see what this guy can do. I think everybody kind of knows right now, especially the veterans in that locker room, that Josh McCown has the experience, and he's the way to go right now.
Mary Kay, what does this decision tell you, if anything, about how the Browns view Johnny Manziel long-term?
Well, I think they're sort of cautiously optimistic right now. I think they view him currently still as the backup and as a developmental project. But if you believe what Pet is telling us, and if you believe what John DeFilippo told us last week, they believe he could be a quality starter, and Flip even said he's got tremendous physical attributes. Now, does that mean he can put it all together? They don't even know the answer to that. But I still think at this point they feel he's worth investing the time and trouble into.
Mary Kay, how short is the leash now on Josh McCown? What would it take for the Browns to make another switch at quarterback and go back to Johnny?
I don't think the leash is short. I think that they'll evaluate Josh's play for what he's doing, and that it might be a little tricky at times because there's just not a lot of playmakers on this team. I mean, if the opponent does take away Travis Benjamin, and we can expect them to do that, there's just not a lot of other big guys or big playmakers on this team. I mean, unless Dwayne Bowe comes through and starts, producing and jumping up in the red zone and the end zone and catching touchdown passes, which we know he hasn't done that in a very long time, I just don't know where the plays are going to come from unless you can sneak a a big play over the middle to a Gary Barnage. Rob Hauser hasn't done anything yet. You've got consistent guys that are going to make some plays for you in Brian Hartline, Andrew Hawkins, Taylor Gabriel, and those guys. But, your number one type of receiver, that guy has to emerge. And I think it's going to be a little bit of a tough go for Josh. Now, I do think he will distribute the ball well, and he'll find guys that will make plays for him. But they do need more playmakers on this team.
Mary Kay, of course, everyone has talked about Johnny Manziel mentally and how he was mentally prepared to go in against New York and his mental preparations as the starter last week. And he said that was a good feeling for him. So now what does this do to Johnny mentally? How does he respond to this?
Well, I think it's good that he's disappointed. I think it's good that he's, really bummed about this, and he seemed like he was yesterday. But it's a different Johnny Manziel, I believe, than the one that we were dealing with last year where, if he, didn't have the structure and he didn't have the, the opportunity to be the guy, I think, at times he probably, faltered off the field. I think that the 2015 edition of Johnny Manziel is more equipped to handle the ups and downs of life. I think he has a support system in place. I think the Browns are working very hard to make sure that he is working whatever program he needs to work. And I think that he'll handle the whole thing a lot better than he did last year.
All right, Mary Kay, thanks for the time.
Thank you, guys.
That was Mary Kay Cabot, our Browns beat reporter, joining us here on Sports Insider to talk about the Browns, who actually have a chance to go to 2-1 this week if they can beat Oakland. And then, of course, things get a little difficult for them. So 2-1 would be very important. Did you think that the coaching staff and Mike Pettin made the right decision?
Yes, absolutely. And I think some other coaching staffs in the past probably would have gotten caught up in the fireworks show, the pretty colors, the loud booms, the big plays that Johnny created. But they had this plan all along. It was a 4-month plan. They went into it saying Josh McCown is clearly our best quarterback for us to win on Sundays. And I don't think Johnny did anything to change that. Exactly what Mary Kay said. Josh McCown's the starter. Johnny's the backup. If the backup's going to get an opportunity, he's going to have to go out on Sundays and prove, hey, I'm going to do something so great that you're forced to keep me on the field. And he didn't do enough. 8 completions?
Yeah.
We're going gaga over 8 completions? We're going gaga over 3 throws? We're going gaga over a guy disappearing for 2.5 quarters? That's not enough to unseat your starting quarterback.
Yeah, the bar is very low for Johnny Manziel. He went over it on Sunday, but again, it's a very low bar. All right, let's go ahead and talk some Indians baseball and bring in our Indians beat reporter, Paul Hoynes. Hoynesy, what's going on?
Hi, guys. How you doing today?
I'm doing well, Hoynesy, and I said to Chris before the show, I think we can safely say that it is finally over for this Indians baseball team. There will be no playoff baseball this year.
Yeah, they'd have to really kick it into gear here, and they'd have to have a lot of things go right in front of them. So yeah, these last 2 games have really kind of been body blows to the Tribe.
Time of death, 10:59, September 23rd, 2015, Hoynesy. So if you are writing the Indians' eulogy, even though the season's not technically over, what are you going to remember from this season? What's going to stand out to you the most?
I'll remember kind of the different halves, let's say. The first half, there was a lot of optimism coming into the season. They had, they're kind of a good mix of veterans and young players, or at least they thought was a good mix, and it didn't work out. It was a failure. All of a sudden, they traded, Murphy and Moss and Bourne and Swisher and Zimzinski, all the veterans guys, and they brought up some young guys in the second half, and they played better. But unfortunately, it wasn't enough. And the thing that I remember on top of that is April. They were so bad in April, and it's come back to haunt them right now.
Hoynesy, so with all of that being said, as we look at Terry Francona and the job he did this year, how would you grade or rate the job that Terry Francona has done as the manager this season?
I think he's probably about a C+, B-. I think I don't think he had a lot to work with in the first half offensively. Swisher was hurt. Bourne, had obviously hit the wall. It really did. Santana was just terrible throughout most of the year. So they really didn't have a middle of the lineup to be productive, to drive in some runs. I mean, they were hitting David Murphy was hitting cleanup for a period of time, and Brandon Moss was terrible. So they just didn't have a lot of oomph from the offense. And I thought it got better in the second half, but you look back at this rotation and you just think about, boy, they wasted a lot of good pitching here.
Yeah, and I might be being a little bit too hard on Corey Kluber, and I know that there are some, analytics that are going to tell you that he was probably better than what his win-loss record, ERA, whatever that is. But look, last night, Hoynes, it was a huge game for the Indians. It's a huge series going on right now against the Minnesota Twins, and I know it was his second start coming off that hamstring injury, but this is the reigning AL Cy Young winner. This is supposed to be your front-of-the-rotation guy, and in one of the biggest games of the year, he gives you 3 2/3. He gives up 4 earned runs. I mean, that's not good enough.
Yeah, I mean, that was disappointing, and I think Kluber was, obviously he was disappointed. But, I just don't think he's 100%. I really don't. I think the hamstring, obviously has played into this, and the 18, 19 days of inactivity. He didn't throw any rehab games, because of the minor league season was over, basically. So he just kind of, jumped back into a big league setting, and it hasn't worked. And I guess you give him, credit for going out there, but. I think I don't know if it should have been handled differently. I think he wants to pitch. You got to pitch your number one guy. But, if this injury had happened in August, maybe it would have been a different outcome because, he definitely isn't the same guy that, we've seen for much of the year.
Hoynes, another guy that the folks will kind of get mad at you if you criticize him. But you mentioned him, Carlos Santana. This is a guy, doesn't have a high average, but he does walk a lot. But his home runs, he had his 17th home run of the year last night. For a team that needs power, how disappointing is it that Carlos Santana just hasn't really provided it for him this year?
It seems like Santana took like 5 months off, doesn't it?
Yes.
And finally he decided to play in September. I mean, last year it was a bad first half and a good second half. So at least you get 80, 90 games out of him. Now you get a month out of this guy, and he's supposed to be your cleanup hitter. I just don't. He just looks. His swing is so big. He's never made an adjustment in his swing from either side of the plate. I mean, he's defenseless basically from the right side of the plate. I know he hit the home run last night. I think that was only his 3rd home run, right-handed, if I'm not mistaken. It's just it's been a disappointing year for him, and I wouldn't be. They've got to seriously consider moving him, I would imagine, to see what they can get this winter.
Hoynes, let's look at that second wild card spot. Right now it's occupied by the Houston Astros, but they've been struggling against the Los Angeles Angels. So you've got the Angels in the mix, of course. You've got the Minnesota Twins in the mix as well, and then Baltimore got in front of the Indians. Do you still think it's the Houston Astros is the most likely team to get that second spot, or do you think one of those teams behind them is playing better baseball right now?
I think the Twins are even though their rotation is just, it's kind of like middle of the road. I think they might be the team. Everyone kept waiting for them to go away the whole season, and they're still here. They had their bad stretch coming out of the break. They're not even that. They don't even really have that good of a record since the All-Star break. But they're hanging in there. They play well. They've got some decent hitters. Mauer looks like he's kind of revitalized his career a little bit. I think this is a dangerous team right now, and they've got a decent bullpen. So I think they, and the Angels, but when the Indians played the Angels, they beat them They beat them up. So it's weird. When you get into this, there's like 5 or 6 teams, and you can throw them in a hat and kind of just blindly pick one of them out, and it wouldn't be any different than the other 4 or 5 that are still in the hat.
Hoynes, looking ahead, has this little run that the Indians put together, has it changed the expectations for 2016, or maybe changed the realities that this team could contend again in 2016?
Well, I think it's giving them some it's giving them a look at Lindor. okay, now the mystery's over with Lindor. You know, he's going to be your starting shortstop. Should be perhaps maybe the rookie of the year. You know, you still don't know about third base. Urshela, you know, played a great third base, but he can't stay on the field. So, you know, you've got some questions there. I think, you have a solid rotation if everyone stays healthy. Anderson is, you know, he's going to pitch tonight, and he's really, you know, he's been a pleasant surprise. Tomlin, you know, we've seen Tomlin before. The question with him is, can he stay healthy? Can he give you a full season? But I think it has given them some, you know, I think it's proven to the front office that they do have some talent here, but they know they have to add to this club. They cannot go into this next season with this same roster and expect to overtake Kansas City, who, by the way, you know, eliminated them last night from the AL Central. And that's what you want to do. You want to win the Central. You don't want to be messing around in the wild card.
Yeah, we've learned that over the last few seasons. Mixed results there, obviously, for the Indians. All right, Hoynesy, thanks for the time.
Thank you.
All right, Paul Hoynes, our Indians beat reporter. We're going to talk some Cavaliers coming up with Chris Haynes, and you can just feel the excitement building for the Cavs season, for Cavs training camp. But Cavs Media Day, of course, is always just a crazy event, especially now that LeBron is back. It's just, it's I don't know how to describe it. It's just something to behold when the Cavs have LeBron.
Yeah.
Kyrie, Kevin Love. Of course, I remember when Shaq came here a few years back. It's just a zoo. It's great.
It's amazing because we use baseball terminology like all the time, right? We hate the Yankees. We hate the Red Sox. At the same time, we envy them, and we would love to be those teams. Well, the Cavs are the Yankees of the NBA. They're the team that everybody's gunning for. And it's great to just walk down the street in downtown Cleveland, stick out your chest, and be like, yeah, we got the best team in the NBA. That's right.
Of course, we will talk about it right now with our Cavaliers beat reporter Chris Haynes joining us via phone. Chris Haynes, how are you?
Doing fine, guys.
All right, Chris, got to keep asking you about this. Tristan Thompson, he's the one guy that is still not in the fold. Fedor mentions the Yankees of the NBA. Well, the Cavs are missing a key piece. Anything going to happen there before Monday?
Oh, man, before Monday. You know what? I'm just going to be blatantly honest. I have no idea. If you're forcing me to say, I'm going to lead towards saying that I don't think a deal will be done by media day. I think he'll probably use all the time that's afforded to him up until that October 1st deadline to take that qualifying offer. You know, of course, anything can change. Of course, something can happen today or tomorrow. You know, guys, I really do not have a clue, man. I'm just going on based on how things have been going and shaped out all this whole off season. It just leads me to believe that they'll probably take their time up to the final day.
Chris, could you see Tristan Thompson holding out, or is that October 1st date, that's the one that you have circled?
I can see a holdout. I can see a holdout situation. I definitely can see that. You know, the qualifying offer, guys, I'm really not sure. I know there's threats of taking that qualifying offer. I know that's out there.
Yeah.
You know, I just think right now Tristan has to capitalize on securing a long-term lucrative financial offer. So, you know, I think a deal gets done. I think a long-term deal gets done eventually. Whether that's before October 1st or after sometime, I think a long-term deal gets done.
If the reports are accurate, the Cavs are offering 5 years, $80 million. Tristan Thompson, Rich Paul, his agent, they want 5 years, $94 million. So if you think a long-term deal is going to get done between the two sides, are you sensing that the Cavs then would have to increase their offer that they're currently at right now? Or could you see Rich Paul, knowing what you know about Rich Paul, knowing what you know about Tristan Thompson, could you see them taking the Cavs' original offer, which is reported to be 5 years, $80 million?
I can't see them taking that. I can't see that. The Cavs will have to up their offer. 5 years, 80. Really, so what that's saying is really the Cavs haven't moved at all. And, you know, the way that Rich Paul and Mark Termini, the way those guys work when they're negotiating contracts, you know, you have to move pretty dramatically in order to get them to get that name dotted on the dotted line. So, with that being said, the Cavs will have to up their offer in order for a deal to get done. I can almost guarantee, and I would just be totally shocked if they sign a 5-year, $80 million deal. I just don't think there's any way that can happen at all.
Chris, looking at the return of Kevin Love, Kyrie Irving coming off of those injuries, Kevin Love appears he'll be back before Kyrie. They should both be involved in training camp, but how will this team manage both of those guys' returns?
Well, that's why, that I was told that the Cavaliers, they're going to bring the maximum players allowed to camp in 20. And so, in doing that, that enables the coaching staff to still get, go through, get all their reps in, all their drills in, and not lose a step. So, there's going to be portions, especially initially, for Kevin Love and Kyrie, where they can't go through all the drills. They can't go through all the workload. And so that's why you have these other guys to go in and keep that going. Because they want to make sure Kyrie, Kevin Love, and to a certain extent, Timothy Mozgov and Anderson Varejao. You want to make sure those guys are doing what they can at the time and making sure you're not overworking them too much because you don't want to risk a setback. I was told that everybody is rehabbing, as planned. Everything is going as planned. The progress is moving along, as everyone thought within the organization. So the load right now, or should I say the task right now, is to make sure that everybody is healthy as possible leading up to opening night. And, obviously, as I've written, that they expect Kevin Love to be available before Kyrie Irving is made available. And so from that time, Kevin Love is probably going to come back, a couple days or, maybe even make the last couple of preseason games, just going through that time step.
Chris, I think the situation with Anderson Varejao is interesting because this is a guy that at one time the Cavs looked at as an important piece of the puzzle. It's a guy that the Cavs gave a 3-year contract extension to before the beginning of last season. And then they go out and they bring in Kevin Love. And, of course, they trade for Timofey Mozgov, and Tristan Thompson has the breakout season. So as we head into this year for the Cavs, Anderson Varejao coming off that Achilles injury, what's his role going to be?
Yeah, it's for the first time in his Cleveland Cavalier career, his role is the unknown. For the first time, he's not going to be he's not going to be the bona fide starter. Before he's never had to deal with a situation like this. Before it was always, he'll have an injury, he'll have a setback, but you knew if he was healthy, he would be right back in there. That's not the situation this time around. You got Timothy Mozgov, and then you got Tristan Thompson, who is being played more as the backup center nowadays. And so that leaves Andy at the third option. And you have to remember the uniqueness of his contract. Next year, his $10 million is not guaranteed. It's $10 or $11 million, whatever it is. It's not guaranteed. So that makes his contract situation very valuable. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's moved this coming up season because they do have a bulk of front court players. And then you add in Sasha Khan. We know he's 30 years old, but the Cavs have to find out if he can play. The only way you're going to find out is you put him into games. So the development or the curiosity of seeing what Sasha Khan can do might get in the way of Andy Varejao's minutes. And so that's why I say this season right here, I would not be surprised one bit if Andy is moved. And he may be fine with that. I know Andy loves the city of Cleveland. He's always embraced it, never ran from it. He's always had opportunities where he could have gone and chose to stay. So this may be an awkward situation for him, maybe the fan base, but ultimately I think he'll be moved.
All right, Chris Haynes, our Cavaliers beat reporter. Thanks for the time, Chris.
Anytime, guys. Take care.
All right, it's that time. Time to talk to Bud Shaw.
Well, thanks, guys. In announcing Josh McCown as Sunday's starter, I thought Mike Pettine made a pretty good case. He believes McCown was the right choice in training camp after the exhibition season and up until Friday of Tennessee week. So why wouldn't he think the same less than a week later? No doubt he felt encouraged by Johnny Manziel's 2 touchdown passes and the way he responded late in the game after the ball was basically taken out of his hands with the Browns leading 21-0. Pettine also was less than thrilled with 2 more Manziel fumbles. What Pettine said made sense. The team had a plan and hadn't seen Manziel do enough to scrap it quite yet. Who gets credit for that? Well, not me, I can tell you. But one reader says I never got on the bandwagon because I thought Pettine would return to McCown. Actually, I'm never on anybody's bandwagon. I don't root for players or coaches or teams. I just share my suspect opinions. I just thought McCown was the right choice in week 3, and I would think even if Pettine had gone to Manziel that I would have felt that anyway. Our second comment today says Pettine made the safe decision as opposed to the bold one because he doesn't have enough currency yet as Browns head coach. Well, let me tell you, if he's making decisions for any other reason than what he believes gives the Browns the best chance to win, he'll have 0 currency before long, save for what the Browns will owe him when they fire him. He stuck with Brian Hoyer last year when it made some sense to do so, and the result was a 7-4 record before the bottom fell out. Here's a thought, crazy as it sounds, maybe Pettine knows what he's doing? Some Manziel fans, and I think we can safely call this guy one, believe differently. I'm not sure why praying for Johnny involves $signs at the end of what he said, but I get the sentiment. Here's what I do know. After Oakland, the Browns play a tough 7-game stretch that takes them to the bye week. By the end, we will know if the Browns are competitive or whether it's Johnny time. That's not good enough if you somehow believe that winning the Heisman means anything in the NFL. I don't, as I was just mentioning the other day to my good friends Tim Tebow, Troy Smith, Matt Leinart, Jason White, Eric Crouch, Chris Wenke, Charlie Ward, and Danny Werfel. Fedor, did I miss anybody?
No, I think you got him, bud.
Okay. Manziel may turn out better than all of them. He also might not. My point is that Pettine has 52 other players to consider. And by the way, I didn't hear one media person or fan campaigning for Justin Gilbert to start after his interception return against Indianapolis last year based on the fact that they have to find out about him. For now, I've asked the same question in 2 columns. What's the rush on Manziel? McThrice says my reasoning was so flawed in at least one of those columns that he found it unbelievable. He cautions that if I'm not careful, my backup might take over and show everyone the future of sports writing. Well, if that's what Johnny Manziel is, the future of quarterbacking, wow, that's high praise. I haven't heard anyone called that since way back 2 years ago when they said the same of RG3 and Colin Kaepernick. How'd that turn out, guys?
You know, I'd have been okay if they'd have started Johnny, but I don't understand how people can argue with this as much as they have. I mean, I guess I do with the whole, money sign and all that he doesn't do anymore. I get the hype aspect of it, but ultimately when you look at the performance, I don't know. I mean, again, I'd have been fine with it. And kind of at first in the moment, I was like, hey, let's see what this kid has. But now that I've had a few days distance from that game, I mean, I've kind of changed the way I feel about it.
I think I just heard Chris Haynes suggest that it's time to find out about Sasha Khan.
Yes.
That's what it's about in Cleveland, bud. It's about finding out what we have in all of these guys. Forget the whole winning thing.
Yeah.
Forget the fact that it's week 3 and the NFL season goes to week 17. We got to find out in week 3 if Johnny Manziel can be the guy. Like, what kind of logic is that? Like, you find out if the guy can be the guy in like week 12, 13, 14, that's when it's reserved. You don't do that in week 3. You're trying to win here.
Not when you have a legitimate shot to get to 2-1.
That's
like
right.
a real, honest shot to get to 2-1 heading into that 7-game stretch that you mentioned.
And Bud, to your point about Colin Kaepernick and Robert Griffin III, if you think back to Johnny's best plays against the Tennessee Titans, what were they? It was Johnny being Johnny. It was Texas A&M Johnny Manziel. That's not going to consistently work in the NFL. You're going to keep relying on magic. Good luck. That's going to run out sooner or later.
Yeah, he's going to face much tougher teams than Tennessee. Let's not forget that as well. Yeah. Tennessee's not a very good football team.
Yeah, they had the 2nd overall pick last year. There's a reason why they had the 2nd overall pick last year. It's not just because they were crappy at quarterback. They were crappy everywhere.
Yeah. That comeback. Just look at the comeback they give up to
come
Brian Hoyer in the All right, whatever.
That's right.
All right, that'll do it for Sports Insider. Thanks to Bud Shaw, Chris Haynes, Paul Hoynes, Mary Kay Cabot. He's Chris Fedor. I'm Dan Labbe. Thanks for watching.